cigarette put out on your skin?
Where else do you put one out?
Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdut's Newsstand, and today I thought we could do something a little different. I love looking into the histories of the characters, origins, stuff similar to that, but today we're going to do a copycat video. The top 10 times that Marvel copied or stole from DC. Now, there is a bunch of characters in here, so let me know in the comments below which one you think the most obvious is or which one you think is your favorite. Of course, don't forget to hit like, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Let's start right away because this might get a little lengthy. Number 10, we are taking a look at Catwoman and Black Cat.
Meow.
Now, Catwoman predates Black Cat by several decades, and they're both infamous cat burglars who wear black skin-tight costume. They both have cat in their name. They both enjoy on-again, off-again relationship with their male superhero, Batman and Superman, respectively, right? Who feel conflicted about dating them because of their illegal activities. Now, Black Cat was created by writer Marv Wolfman and artist Dave Cockrum and made her first appearance in 1979's This Amazing Spider-Man number 194. And to be fair, that's nearly 40 years after Catwoman was introduced in 1940's Batman number 1. Now, Catwoman did disappear for a while due to the Comics Code Authority, and Marv Wolfman even said himself he never thought of Catwoman when creating Felicia Hardy. And she was supposed to be introduced in a Spider-Woman title, but he left the run early, and the editors had other ideas for Black Cat. Now, stories of deliberate ripoffs are an open inspiration are often so common in comic world that nobody could be faulted for thinking that there was some, funny business going on Black Cat's creation. But what actually happened is even more interesting, right? Black Cat and Catwoman are a rare, genuine example of convergent evolution. It was truly accidental this time. Ironically enough, though, Black Cat turned good first, and it took Lena some time, a little bit longer, to become what she is today. So let's take a look at the next one, right? Deadpool and Deathstroke.
Whose balls did I have to fondle to get my very own movie?
10 years before Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld created Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson, at Marvel Comics, DC Comics had a character created Deathstroke, aka Slade Wilson. Yes, Fabian and Liefeld intentionally ripped off Deathstroke, one of both of their favorite villains. Now, Deathstroke was introduced to the DC Universe in 1980 in New Teen Titans number 2. Deadpool would come nearly a decade later in 1991 when Fabian told Liefeld his new character was too similar to Deathstroke. And instead of abandoning the idea, the creators decided to actually lean into it. Fans of Wade Wilson will recognize, obviously, Slade Wilson's costume and the weaponry that he uses. Both characters are hyper-violent mercenaries and enjoy a brutal kill. But unlike Wade, whose brain damage has turned him into a fun-loving, dangerous hitman, Slade is a super serious supervillain. He enlisted in the army at 16, quickly became a master fighter. As often happens in, comic book universes, he was chosen by the army for an experimental super soldier program, leading to his enhanced physical powers. Now, Deadpool is on Canadian soil during the Weapon X programming, turning him, mildly crazy. Deathstroke's wife abandoned him and blamed him for maiming his son and shot him in the right eye, hence the mask. Both share similar color set, similar weapons, similar healing factor. Well, Deadpool has a much stronger healing factor to the point where he can be decapitated. He basically can survive anything, right? So the next one we have on the list centers around a super powered freaks, shunned by society and even by other superheroes. But when a wheelchair-bound genius gathers this unusual group of misfits together in his mysterious mansion, he forges them into a fighting unit, a true family of heroes for the world that hates and fears them. Who are they? Who do you think I am talking about? If you say the X-Men, you're wrong and right, but I'm actually talking about Marvel ripping off Doom Patrol.
We're fucking coming, man!
To create the X-Men. DC's heroes debuted a full 3 months prior to X-Men #1 in 1963. So, did Stan Lee and Jack Kirby actually rip off these heroes with the X-Men? No one knows really for sure, but probably not, given the time it takes to make comics, especially back then. About 3 months, it would have been an extremely rushed production. Not impossible, still very unlikely. Despite one of these teams being the world's strangest superheroes, the other is the strangest superheroes of all. The two comic similarities probably really are just, a big coincidence. A massive, massive coincidence in every single way. Okay, maybe they are a ripoff. Doom Patrol fought the Brotherhood of Evil, while the X-Men arch enemies were the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Okay, well, eventually when Marvel started to pull ahead in popularity, DC did the smart thing and gave the title to Grant Morrison after his success on Animal Man, and they leaned into the weird. And it definitely got weird. Morrison created characters like Crazy Jane, a normal woman, right? With 64 different personalities, who have 64 different powers. He fused Negative Man with a woman, creating an intersex hero called Rebus. Robot Man was still around, but now he was like the normal guy in a group of aggressively stranger and stranger superheroes. And while the Chief remained as the leader, Morrison eventually made him far less altruistic than his counterpart, which would be Professor X. And in Morrison's run, he actually revealed that the Chief caused all of these accidents that deformed the Doom Patrol in the first place. So he ended up being the bad guy that is way different in the X-Men. Now, let's talk about one that's not as obvious, and we actually get a 2-for-1 with this one. Bucky Barnes and Robin, and by extension, Ricky Barnes and Carrie Kelly. This one isn't as obvious as the other, but it is a clear ripoff of two parts. First, Bucky Barnes and Robin, and then when they introduced Ricky Barnes as the counterpart to Frank Miller's creation of Carrie Kelly. Now, Bucky is the name of several characters that were mass superheroes in Marvel Comics universe. The original one, James Buchanan, Bucky Barnes, was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby as a sidekick character in Captain America Comics #1, which debuted in March 1941. And decades later, the original Bucky was brought back from a supposed death as the Winter Soldier, and briefly assumed the role of Captain America when Steve Rogers was presumed dead. Now, Robin, on the other hand, is the name of several characters appearing in DC Comics books that were originally created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger and Jerry Robinson as a junior part to the DC Comics superhero Batman.
Fuck Batman.
The team of Batman and Robin is commonly referred to as a dynamic duo or the Cape Crusaders. The character's first incarnation, which would have been Dick Grayson, debuted in Detective Comics 1938 in April of 1940, conceived as a vehicle to attract young readership. Now, Robin garnered overwhelmingly positive critical reception, doubling the sales of Batman-related comic books. Now let's talk about their counterparts. Riki Barnes was created by Jeff Leb and Rob Liefeld during their infamous Heroes Reborn Captain America in 1996. She was made as a contemporary sidekick. The original Bucky is her grandfather, and at this point, an old man who joins up to help Captain America. Her brother also becomes a skinhead and one of her enemies. Eventually, during the Onslaught Reborn, she became part of the main 616 Marvel Universe as Riki, aka Rebecca Barnes. This was taken off Carrie Kelly, who debuted in 1986 in The Dark Knight Returns, and unlike the previous two Robins, she had parents. They were extremely neglectful, but she had parents. So in The Dark Knight Returns, she saves Batman's life, takes up the mantle, and continually is used in Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns universe, often appearing as Batwoman, right? It's not been as good as of late, but it did start off very strong. So let's talk about another very obvious one. The Squadron Supreme and the Justice League. Now, the Squadron Supreme was created in 1971 by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Almost pure imitation of the Justice League. The Squadron Supremes have characters literally based on the Justice League characters, such as Hyperion, which is Superman, Thunda, or Power Princess, which is Wonder Woman, Blur, Flash, Dr. Spectrum, which is supposed to be the Green Lantern, and Nighthawk, who is supposed to be Batman. But these characters were created with a twist. The Squadron Supreme are not heroes. They are anti-heroes, which the Justice League certainly are not. The Justice League was created in 1960, having different members join over the years, such as Green Arrow in 1961. But for the most part, the core members have remained the same, and an inspiration to Squadron Supreme, right? So let's talk about another group here. What about the Imperial Guard? Stealing from none other than the Legion of Superheroes. Now, the first batch of heroes who appeared in the Imperial Guard were designed in 1997 by Dave Cockrum. Now, Cockrum had recently come from a stint at DC where he proposed several new legendaries called the Outsiders. His proposal was not picked up, and Cockrum took his idea to Marvel, and that's where they became the new X-Men. After the X-Men title book took off in sales, these creators took it one step further and unveiled a massive parody of the Legion of Superheroes called the Imperial Guard. The Guard is the first appearance of characters such as Astra, who would be Phantom Girl, Electron, who would be Lightning Lad, Fang, who would be Timberwolf, or Gladiator, who is based off of Mon-El. Now, the Legion of Superheroes was created in 1958 by Otto Binder and have always been time travelers closely associated with Superboy until he was altogether removed. Now, the original version of the team was replaced after 0 Hour in 1994, and then again in 2004, only to have the original team return to 2007. And Legion of Superheroes is actually currently going with Brian Michael Bendis and Ryan Sook on art, but I am hoping for a reboot of the entire thing. It's not interesting anymore. I would say it's about time. And we have one more team. Green Lantern Corps. Well, the Nova Corps stole their idea exactly.
They call me the human rocket for a reason, goofy grape.
The Nova Corps was printed in Marvel Comics in 1979, nearly 40 years after the Green Lantern, and its first debut, which would have been in 1940. They're all very similar, but there is a few differences, and that's what we'll talk about, right? The Nova Corps is basically a universal peacekeeping force with power imbued in the world mind. Powers include flight, super strength, connection to the world mind, and more experience can tap more power, right? Greater powers are often things like Stargate, energy blast, and the release of a static burst. Now, the Green Lantern's power comes from a power ring, which needs to be recharged. These power rings give you flight, super speed, and many other forms, all derived from willpower. So, one of the main differences is that the Nova Corps had chosen Richard Rider blindly. They didn't seek out the worthy one, they chose him blindly. The Green Lantern ring chooses Hal Jordan only when they felt he was worthy. Another difference is the number of soldiers. Whereas Nova Corps has a hand-counted number of soldiers, but the Green Lantern has around 7,200. There are 3,600 sectors, and each sector has 2 Green Lanterns to protect it. You do the math. So Nova himself was a ripoff of Green Lantern while trying to still emulate the Spiderman teen drama from the 60s that was actually selling well. The Nova Corps itself started just as protectors of Xandar and space explorers, and then kind of became space cops like the Green Lanterns. However, they aren't as strong as the Green Lantern Corps and don't really play near as much of a role, the Nova comics, like the Green Lantern comics do in DC. So, let's take a look at the next one. We have Mr. Fantastic and both Elongated Man and Plastic Man. So, both Elongated Man and Plastic Man predate Mr. Fantastic, who made his debut in November of 1961, compared to Plastic Man, who appeared in 1941, and Elongated Man, who appeared in 1960. Now, they all do nearly share the same powers. The only difference is that the characters have different origin stories, such as Ralph Dibny, who is Elongated Man, and he admired contortionists as a teenager, right? So then he later learned that they drank this specific soda, and it was called Gin Gold. Well, when he grew older, he became a chemist. He created a highly concentrated version of Gin Gold, and it gave him powers. Now, Reed Richards was on a mission in space where he was bombarded by cosmic rays, giving him his powers. Both of these characters are portrayed, though, as brilliant scientists, whereas Plastic Man, known as Patrick O'Brien,
Oh, hello. Can you believe that guy?
was a small-time criminal who attempted to rob a chemical plant, and when it went south and the cops showed up, he was exposed to an unknown acid. Now, both Mr. Fantastic and Elongated Man go on to share their life also with a woman named Sue, again showing more similarities, but all 3 of these characters can shapeshift, turn into basically anything, and they have skin so stretchy it never ever breaks. So, we have 2 more. Now let's talk about number 2, Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate predates Doctor Strange, making his first appearance in 1940, compared to Doctor Strange, first appearance, which would have been in Strange Tales number 110 in 1963. Now, both characters are magical characters, but in very different ways, right? Doctor Strange has had many names, but we're going to talk about Kent Nelson as Dr. Fate. He is a powerful sorcerer and an agent for the Lords of Order who fight evil alongside his wife, Inza. Now, his amulet, cloak, and helm are all creations of the ancient Nabu, who acts as a mentor and spiritual guide. He is also a founding member of the Justice Society of America. So, Doctor Strange is Dr. Stephen Strange and the Sorcerer Supreme for Earth 616. He was once a brilliant, albeit arrogant, neurosurgeon who had a terrible car accident, crippling his ability to perform in surgery. Then he embarked on a journey to Tibet and trained under the Ancient One, eventually healing his hands, learning about magic, and becoming the mystic a master of the mystic art. So let's talk about our number one.
There are some holes that not even an army of parademons can fill.
Most on my list was entirely made up of superheroes, but this logic doesn't just apply to the good guys, right? Two of comics' greatest supervillains came from rival companies and have had parallel rises in fame and popularity, rifing on each other from almost their inception, and in this case, the creators freely admitting that Thanos would not exist without DC Comics' Darkseid. Jack Kirby left Marvel Comics in 1970, right? And he switched over to DC, creating his own world. This has now been known as the Fourth World, and alongside Kirby's New Gods of the Fourth World was a Lord of the Planet Apocalypse, a giant purple hue and craggly-faced despot called Darkseid. His goal was to discover something called the anti-life equation, which it would give him complete control of the universe. He made his debut in 1970, and he was a puppet master villain in books like The Forever People, New Gods, and even Mr. Miracle. With Jack Kirby gone, though, it was up to Jim Starlin to create new characters and explore the Marvel mythos, including Captain America. Jim Starlin took what he had seen done by Jack Kirby on both Darkseid and Metron and created Thanos. Number one is technically another 2-for-1. We have Thanos from Metron and Darkseid. Metron was known as the universe's ultimate knowledge seeker, who's neither good nor evil. He floated across the multiverse in his Mobius chair, gathering information. And he was a skinny dude, right? So Thanos was originally designed like that as well, until Starlin's editor, Roy Thomas, who told him literally, beef them up, and if you're gonna steal one of the New Gods, at least rip off Darkseid, the really good one. And thus Thanos became tall, bulky, purple, with a craggly face. He did keep the chair though, right? The chair comes from Metron. Darkseid sought out anti-life, while Thanos was obsessed with death. There is so much to discover when you actually dig into the history of these things. And I love doing so with years of mythos in both Marvel and DC characters. It seems copying off each other was the way to go. There was successes and failures, and many, many times we would see a copycat rise above the original, such as with Doom Patrol. So let me know, of course, what you guys think about this. If you enjoy this type of video, give it a thumbs up. I would love to do a part 2 or reverse where DC stole from Marvel. Again, this is something I've always been interested, just history and looking into creation. I absolutely love it. So let me know, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey guys, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon and subscribe stars. You guys literally make this channel possible. Huge thank you to Cage the Mick, Robert Mick Twiz, Black Knight Fool, Brucey, Chris Z, David L, David Rafford, Jeffrey Allen Carnes, Mighty Paws, Mike Buckner, Maizen Barbosa, Ruskart, Ryan Decker, Robert Hoffman, and Doc Holliday. You guys are absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for all your support. Don't forget on the way out to like as always if you enjoy the content, and hit subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.